Hello, everybody. So my name is Arief. Before we get to some of the introductions, I wanted to lay up the talk that we're about to give. So the first one is, if we could hit the next slide. Sam and I were thinking of how do we frame this presentation, and what would be a good hook to reel y'all in. So I mean, the obvious kind of title is how do indies get selected for showcases? Some of the alternative titles that we had were downing your way to getting featured into an online showcase. That's meant for the first row, if you guys get that reference, or just help. That's really what Sam and I are here to provide. So before we get into the rest of our talk and the rest of our presentation, Sam and I are from the Southeast Asian Games Showcase. As a high level, what we've done in this past year was that we launched a premium online showcase which garnered over 1 million views across multiple platforms, namely GameSpot, IGN, and the Game Awards, and Bilibili were some of our broadcast partners. And we also collaborated with a lot of local partners like the Lazy Monday. But before we get into all this, you might be asking, who are Arief and Sam and the Southeast Asian Games Showcase? So my name is Arief, everybody. By day, I actually work in venture capital. I'm one of the fund managers deploying into early stage startups. Back in 2019, I started covering the Southeast Asian community and the Southeast Asian game development scene, primarily through content. So I did an online show on Twitch which featured streams dedicated to playing Southeast Asian games. That snowballed into creating content for the next couple of years, giving nods and shout outs to numerous games that are based in the region. And it also snowballed into a lot of other projects, obviously collaborating with Sam on numerous of those, where we really just want to amplify games from the region.
Hi everyone, my name is Sam. So I work at various marketing and publishing firms in Japan and also in Singapore. I started out as a games writer, and just been working for a long time with Arief, just trying to do a lot of work in promoting. Whoa. We have to stand like 6 meters apart?
I think we have to, one of us has to go to the other side of the stage and then the other one has to stand here. How does that work, Sam?
I think so. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, so I started out as a games journalist, but now I work in marketing and publishing. And our lovely co-founder Nissi, who is unable to be here today, you can see her over there. She's a producer and a content designer, and also just a big community leader, leading lots of amazing initiatives out in the Philippines.
And obviously, this is a photo of us at Indie Jam. So everybody, please round of applause for Nissi, who couldn't be here today, unfortunately. Just give her some love. So before we get into a little bit of the tips and some of the ways that you can optimize getting into the showcase, we wanted to give a little bit of a recap of how this showcase came to be, and where we were before how we got to the 1 million views that we garnered last year. So the history of the Southeast Asian Games Showcase is a little complicated. It actually started way back in 2023. Gamescom Asia was looking to have a program as part of their online show. We collaborated with Virtual Southeast Asia, which is a local regional publication, and we ended up hosting the first iteration of the Southeast Asian Games Showcase at Gamescom Asia and with the support of Gamescom Asia, with a couple caveats here. The content that was featured at the show, although we featured numerous developers and numerous interviews with Southeast Asian game developers, it was non-exclusive content. So we tried to challenge ourselves, build a muscle to create more showcases. So in 2024, Sam and I collaborated to create the first Malaysian, I would say, online showcase called the Malaysia Direct. And that we also featured about 10 games. We had some developer commentary, some developer trailers that came on board. And we continued through 2024 for the second iteration of the Southeast Asian Games Showcase, featuring some of the folks that are here in the room as well. But I think the main issue that Sam and I had with focusing on the developers from the region was that the content wasn't exclusive. So most of the people, although the viewership was pretty high, it didn't have a strong marketing beat to pull in, whether it be even regional journalists or international journalists or other types of publications or creators. So we took a really big leap in 2025, and we actually managed to collaborate with the Game Awards team and the Summer Game Fest to launch this new iteration of the Southeast Asian Games Showcase, which we did, and we're about to recap here.
I think the other point to note was that we were starting to see a lot of really amazing showcases come up in Southeast Asia, but it was very Southeast Asian focused. It was for the community and the audiences of this region. And what we wanted to achieve was how can we get global recognition how can we get Southeast Asia games seen and heard by a North American audience or a European audience. So it was very essential for us last year that partner up with someone of the caliber of the Game Awards to ensure that we really get as many eyes on these amazing games as possible.
So here's what we did last year. We showcased 40 plus Southeast Asian games. Obviously, you can take a look at the caliber of the games that were showcased. Many familiar names. Again, a lot of folks in the audience, a lot of folks in the room here were featured at our showcase, but also a couple games that had yet to fully be announced to the public. This obviously resulted in 1 million views, as we mentioned. And again, I just really want to underscore the importance of what we tried to do. I think a lot of the legwork for us was making sure, as Sam said, the broadcast partners were the best in the industry so that we weren't insulated in the amplification reach, if you will, to just Southeast Asia or to just Asia or just maybe the indie community, if you will. I want to call out a couple things here. I think a lot of people think that broadcasts are just broadcasts and they stop there. What we took a look at is that we really wanted to make sure we had multiple avenues in which people could consume and be part of the show. So we obviously had our broadcast partners, but one of the surprises, I think, Sam, on our end was the fact that we had numerous content creators and big content creators, not just in Southeast Asia, but we had representatives from Europe. I think Germany was a big country for us from a content creation perspective. Brazil, South America. So I want to underscore the fact that the viewership, although it is very skewed towards North America, what we found in the showcase was that the content creators from maybe more developing countries, more global South countries, also banded together to kind of like pay attention and watch the showcase as well. Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, this was a good time to apologize to the Southeast Asia region. Our showcase was at 3 in the morning in Malaysia time. So not many people in the region were able to watch it in real time, but this was a strategic decision so that the North American, European, Latin American communities could tune in.
Here's the other things that we did. So outside of the showcase itself, we really wanted to make sure that it was amplified beyond it. I want to make a call out here. The folks at IGN were obviously very supportive of our project. They broadcasted the show, but maybe what people don't know as much is that IGN actually had individual pages of all the games that were featured in our showcase. And in addition to that, they chose a couple select few trailers that they, I'm assuming, were more keen on featuring and posted it on their YouTube and social platforms as well. I think outside of this, we actually would work with our friends at Twitch to get featured on the front page as an additional amplification route. And obviously we had the support of Xbox. They provided Game Pass keys. They had a wrap up of all the Southeast Asian games that they've supported over the past couple of years. All this to say is that when we think about the showcase product and when we think about the showcase process, I think a lot of people see the broadcast as a whole, but we do a lot of work making sure that other ways, other amplification opportunities really come through for developers that they might not think of. I just think it's really cool that we got a Famitsu feature. You know what I mean, Sam? Like, I never would expect like that article to come through.
Yeah, I think when we started the showcase, obviously it was a new endeavor last year, and we wanted to work more closely with media as well. So we looked at some of our media friends regionally, and we looked at some media friends overseas, and we worked with. So these are our key media partners. Shout out to Namia and the crowd, for supporting us even without even seeing the showcase for the first time. But once we got that, I guess, core media locked in, we saw a roll-on effect happening around the world. So obviously Famitsu is very, very cool. We did not include, I think there was a big one in like a Spanish like mainline media, like wasn't even games, it was like just general lifestyle. So it's really, really cool. I guess what the takeaway here is, together with broadcast and media, is that once you get the right partnerships in, there's just a big knock-on effect where everyone just wants to start covering the showcase and the games, and that's just something we were really honored and happy to have the support of so many people.
Now, this is another thing we wanted to focus on. So again, we want to articulate and use this time to share the things that might not be as obvious. I think there's some developers in the room that totally get this, but one of the magic components of the showcase is obviously the associated Steam page. So we ran some numbers. In total, the games that we even accepted games that weren't featured in our show. So we had a whole swath of Southeast Asian games on our official Steam page during the season. We had about 3 million plus impressions from over those 200 games. And I think the beauty of working with other showcase partners and Summer Game Fest and the Game Awards team was that we actually had an official Steam category made up of all the showcases. So I think that was another just proof point that Southeast Asia itself is coming up as a region, and the faith that they have in us having good games and us having good content was very much translated in our Steam page. We're going to share some wishlist numbers from a Steam perspective in a second here, but we hit the next slide. Obviously, one of the things that we wanted to call out is also the collaboration between some of our showcase partners. So we work with Women-Led and Latin American Games Showcase to do a little bundle. We obviously had the folks at Passion Republic and Gigabash be part of that bundle as well. So major shout out to them. But I think all this to say is that even on the showcase front, although there's many showcases all around the world, all around the region, I think we're all, no matter how big or small, looking to collaborate and looking to highlight the games in each other's regions. So this was one effort dedicated towards that. And finally, I think the last thing we want to mention is with the support of obviously the Magic Rain and the folks here, we were able, in addition to a lot of other partners all around the globe, all around the region rather, we were able to host in-person watch parties. I think this was pretty interesting for Sam, Nissi, and myself because these things aren't typical for other showcases, especially as a regional front. We wanted to make sure the representation was there. Although our showcase was at 3 a.m, we wanted people to feel that energy. So again, I think even in the Malaysia watch party itself, thanks to the folks at Passion and Magic Rain, we had like hundreds of people show up for that event, about like 100+ people show up for that event. So we're very grateful. Sam, you want to talk about the mix?
Yeah, so again, we collaborated with the Mix as well, and we're able to bring 3 Southeast Asian games to their physical showcase in Los Angeles. So this was happening at the same time as Summer Game Fest. I was there. We had some supporters from native to Los Angeles to help me out with that. And yeah, it was really cool. We got to bring Over Hours, Artist Rifle, Urban Jungle. We submitted as many games as we could, but of course, the Mix also has their own curation process. But we felt we submitted what we thought was unique, interesting, and representative of the caliber of our region. And honestly, it was a really great event, and we had a really nice prime spot with the backdrop over there. Lots of people came through, lots of media came through. It felt like it was a really worthwhile endeavor for us.
All right, so we're going to now transition over. Now that you've been indoctrinated on the Southeast Asian Games Showcase, we've given you a little bit of what we do. We wanted to make sure that this was valuable to the developers in the room. So the question we wanted to answer here is, what are the value-added elements to a showcase that are a little bit hidden that people might not think of?
Just kind of going back to the original conception of this idea, we do feel that the showcase model is something that is fairly recent, and a lot of people kind of think about video game marketing in terms of buckets. So it's like content marketing or PR, events marketing. So where exactly do showcases fit? We've kind of given you the run through of what happened in 2025. And as you can see, there was a role in effect that affected platforms, media, PR, and creators. And so how we see ourselves is really just at the top of the funnel. Like we kind of filter in, we kind of curate all the games that kind of come in. And then the way that we promote the games on our platforms, on our YouTube channels, it kind of has this flow-on effect down all the way till creators.
Actually, the next slide, I think, hits that point a little bit in more detail.
Yeah, so this is kind of an example. So we've got our showcase at the top. Yes, we were on the Game Awards. It was really cool. And then because we were on such a prominent platform, working with such, world-renowned partners, we were able to get all of the media involved. We were able to get Steam involved with the Steam event we were talking about. We have Xbox as well that we showed previously. We got the media and PR front. So this one is Checkpoint. This is an Australian publication. And then it goes down all the way to the creators. So when we talked about 1 million views, we will admit that a lot of those views did come from creators, people who were just really prominent on Twitch and on YouTube who really supported the showcase. And then this is just to kind of show that showcases are not just showcases. So we took some examples from our friends. The Latin American Game Showcase, they do game jams, I think a couple of times a year, and they've actually successfully helped games get published or winners of game jams get in front of publishers to be considered for publishing. Most of you guys probably already know Wholesome Games. So Wholesome Games, they do the Wholesome Direct, but they also are a publisher right now. They're doing a lot of interesting stuff, and they actually just released Fishbowl, I think it was yesterday. So it's a cozy game coming out of India, really, really great developers there. And then our example as well is we are primarily a digital showcase, but we are also providing other types of support for developers, including the in-person showcase at the Mix. And this is where the numbers come in. So the main reason why we chose to go live with our showcase with Summer Game Fest, on top of all of the partnerships and despite the saturation of how many games get announced and demos around that time, is that the way that we partner with Steam means our games get a prime feature on Steam and therefore translate to quite a lot of wish lists. So This is a chart from the Game Discover Co newsletter, and it just kind of like shows you the median number of wishlists that games can expect to receive per showcase. So obviously, being on Summer Game Fest, being on Xbox, being on platform or AAA level, you are seeing a median wishlist of like 56,000, and then we're somewhere around the middle there. For our first time, we thought it was quite a considered effort. We were somewhere around Green Games and an American Game Showcase, which has been around for a couple more years than us. And to be honest, like in our region, I know a lot of game developers in Southeast Asia are struggling to get wish lists. And we've had developers come up to us saying, this is more wish lists than we had to begin with. We had double digit, and now we have 4 digits just because we were in your showcase. And that's the kind of impact we really want to see with the kind of work we do with the developers in this region. And we have a not so secret case study. So there was a game that was in our curation pile last year, and because we do work with publishers who are sponsors and publishers who are partners, and we are able to share with them the entire list of developers and games that we have in our showcase list. And one of them actually got signed because the publishers saw the game through us, and we're so happy for those developers and for the publisher as well.
All right, so now maybe answering the big question that you guys might have on your minds, which is, how do I increase my chances of getting featured? I'll take maybe the first stab at this, if we can hit the next slide. I can't underscore enough that really what showcases are looking for are exclusive content. And I want to spend a little bit of time going into a couple of these examples, right, Sam? With what the announcements were last year and why we found them exciting. So just understand that every showcase is competing against other showcases despite the collaboration that we have and the relationships that we have, because at the end of the day, we want the audience, we want the creators, we want the journalists, we just want the average gamer to be able to see something new, fresh, and something exciting. So exclusive content really is, I would say, like 70% the reason why we would take on a game. I want to pause and say that, last year we did the global announcement for No Straight Roads 2, so we're really grateful for the folks at Metronomic. If I'm not mistaken, we also had the official announcement of Grim Trails, which was thanks to some of the folks in the room as well, and you have the game at the back there. And I think these were cases where the games were never shown before. Actually, another one here was the game by Ghost Machine as well. So the 3 of those games were games that weren't shown before, that we thought were of a polish and of a caliber that sets them apart, and we really wanted to be the first people to show off that game. Another maybe example is another way that we wanted to challenge developers to think of exclusive content is, okay, cool. Let's say my game's been out for a year. It's been getting some pretty good reviews. I think I might have some DLC coming up, right? So we want to take the example of the Filipino game Until Then. So their entire trailer was pretty much a recap or like Game of the Year highlight kind of reel, if you will, right? All the reviews, all the praise coming in, but they ended the slot with a 10-second tease of their upcoming DLC, which we actually saw just earlier this year. So we even take announcements like that where we wanted to highlight a game that was very prominent from Southeast Asia, and thankfully they had a bit of exclusive content. The one other way that we want to challenge developers to think about exclusive content is maybe the folks from Spring Loaded. So they sent in a whole developer video that wasn't just a talking head piece, but they actually featured all the developers that worked on the game in this kind of fun way, in addition to some new content.
Just to add to that as well, the Spring Loaded team were also in the Wholesome Games Showcase, and they submitted 2 unique trailers. So they were able to be on both showcases, but it was exclusive content to us, exclusive content to Wholesome Games. So that is something you can do as well. You can create unique content and be on different showcases. We're not asking for game exclusivity, we're asking for content exclusivity. And again, to reiterate Arief's point, we are in touch with all of the major showcases. We're all really good friends. If you do submit the same thing across both showcases, we will know.
Very menacing, Sam. Speaking of our friends, Sam, you want to take the rest?
Yeah, so we told our showcase friends that we were going to do this at Indie Jam. We were going to be talking directly to Southeast Asian developers, and if they had any messages or wishes that they wanted to share with the audience here. So we got a couple of that. So this is the women-led games core team. We've got Shar, who is the founder, David, who's also at LAGS. He supports them as well from a production standpoint, and Claire, who is their business development lead. So Shar was not able to film a video, but she just wants to say, great job to Southeast Asian developers for really doing what they do, making some amazing games. she's so happy to be able to share, a bit of what her organization does. They've seen some amazing games. I think they had volunteer from the Philippines in the Women-led Game Showcase last year. So she's very aware of what we're doing in this region, and she just wants to make sure, we keep doing what we're doing. So yeah, thank you, Shara. Next slide, please.
Hi, I'm Jenny from Wholesome Games. A huge thanks to Sam for inviting me to share a bit about what we consider when curating games for our showcases, Wholesome Direct, and Wholesome Snack. First and foremost, it's helpful to understand the audience and goals of any showcase you're applying to. Wholesome Direct and Snack aims to reach folks looking for a specific kind of experience, mood, and tone with their games. We often describe what we're looking for as inspires joy, thoughtfulness, and hope. Even though we personally enjoy games of all kinds, we need to ensure that the direction of the show fits the audience and community expectations and the messaging that we've established. That being said, I do want to highlight that we're always looking for ways to expand upon and explore the definition of wholesome with our community. Like we phrased in our FAQ, if a game is violent, but that violence is about overthrowing an oppressor, is it unwholesome? We say no. So if you have a game that you feel is a strong fit and can explain how so, both in your show submission and if accepted through your trailer, we would welcome a chance to take a look. Secondly, our showcases aim to provide exclusive news and information to our community. I recommend for any showcase and any game, prepare for showcase events in your marketing and production planning so that you have all this information in your back pocket when you pitch any showcase and account for things like trailer editing time and having trailer ready builds in your planning. For Wholesome, we have a specific section in our submission form clarifying what type of information you're hoping to share with our community and our show. So things like world premiere, first look demo, update, and so on. You don't need the submission trailer or the showcase trailer for your submission, but it helps for us to see some sort of gameplay fidelity that you're aiming for, whether it's with draft, some gameplay that you've recorded, or an already public trailer or video, to start seeing the game in action and where it may fit in the pacing of our show. Outside the overall quality and fit of the game, that's probably the second most important element we look at. What type of announcement are you able to provide? While we do definitely prioritize the exciting stuff like world premieres, every showcase does need a nice range of announcements, so just because you don't have a world premiere doesn't mean you can't get in. Ultimately, if we feel our community will connect with the title, we do our best to include it, whether it's well known and highly anticipated already or something a bit more raw. And those final bits of curation come down to what we think they'll be most excited about, as well as the gaps and pacing that we have in the showcase so that we can create something that is well-rounded that everyone can enjoy.
Awesome. So that was Jenny, aka Kim Chika, one of the founders of the Wholesome Direct, Wholesome Games, and yeah, that she made that message especially for the audience here at Indie Jam. Before we hit to the next slide, I will just cue up the intro. So the next one will be David from Latin American Game Showcase. Obviously, we do not submit there because we're not from Latin America, but he did have some thoughts and advice about how to take games from underrepresented regions to a global stage. So this is the next slide, please.
Hello everyone, my name is David Lucio. I'm the founder and director of the Latin American Games Showcase. We are a platform that strives to bring better visibility and improve the access to opportunities that developers from our region have. Through the experience that we've had in the past couple of years, both from our collaboration efforts with the Southeast Asia Game Showcase, but also from our own passion for indie games, we've learned how close the struggles from both our regions are. So I totally empathize with how hard it feels sometimes to come from an underrepresented region. But I also understand how instrumental innovation is within our industry and how that's completely related to the human experience. Like, I believe innovation comes from personal experiences. And being underrepresented just means that the world hasn't seen our point of view, and there's a lot of experiences from our own cultural backgrounds that we can still share with the world. And that's where innovation comes from. There's a lot about our day-to-day lives that actually seep themselves into mechanics and the way that we explore the human experience through games. So my advice to you is just stay true to yourself. I know that how basic and cliched that is, but I mean from a design point of view. Know that what your gut feeling says, it's probably very well fed by culture, family experiences, and your friendships and everything that's around you. And that will create innovation just by its own pressure. So keep doing what you're doing, trust your gut, surround yourselves with people that you love working with, and you should be on a straight path to success. I'm a big believer that the next big hidden gem is coming from one of our regions. So collaborate, and hopefully eventually you'll be able to also collaborate with people in Latin America, and we'll create really cool stuff together.
So where do we go from here? So you've heard a little bit about our showcase. You've heard a little bit about the friends in some other showcases. We're coming up again in 2026, later this summer, for this upcoming iteration of the Southeast Asia Games Showcase. I want to say that this is never before seen key graphics that we have yet to premiere anywhere, but this is a little bit of a sneak peek into the visual identity of the show. It is still a work in progress, so we'll be amplifying this a little bit later. But what's more important is that I want to say two things. Number one is that the showcase that we create and the people that we work with are all Southeast Asian. So even when it comes to music, when it comes to design, when it comes to the social media content that you see, our mission as an organization is really to uplift the region, not just in the games that you guys are making, but also in the people that are supporting the rest of the ecosystem. So all that to say, later this summer, we'll be doing the next iteration of the Southeast Asian Games Showcase. We have yet to announce a date and time, but please look out because the games that we've been seeing so far have been nothing short of amazing. I'll also caveat the fact that we're deep into the submission, or I guess the review and curation process. And I want to go back to what David said, which is, last year we had about 350 applications. This year we're about 350 as well. And I really want to underscore, we take a look at a lot of games. And I think what David's message is really ringing through to me right now as I'm going through the curation process. I really want to make sure developers in the room here know that you're making the game that you want to make. Because I think the way that we run our showcase is everything is authentic, everything is real. We're trying to highlight the best of this region to the rest of the world. I want to make sure that the games that you guys are building are authentic to yourselves as well. So if that continues, I think we can see a lot better games in the coming years in addition to the games that are already of such a high caliber today.
So thank you so much for coming to our presentation. We're just about to wrap it out now. All of you folks who've chosen to spend your weekend here, thank you for coming by. We wanted to tease a bit of what else we'll be working on. As we said, we are a showcase, but we're not just a showcase, so we're working on a couple more other activations and ideas for the rest of this year. If you sign up to our super secret sign-up form, you will be the first to know about what we'll be offering Southeast Asian developers, opportunities to work with other showcases, events, publishers, all that jazz. So yeah, sign up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's do some Q&A.
Thanks so much. Hey Arief, hey Sam, thanks for doing this. I think this is really what developers need. I have two questions. Number one, to Arief, basically you mentioned about having exclusive content, and you mentioned launch and DLC. But what do you think about other marketing beat that indie studios have in their pocket? Like for example, Steam playtests or Steam demo that we've never seen before plays. So that's number one.
Absolutely. And Sam, I'm curious where you'll land on this, but I'll give the RF answer. The RF answer is that what I'm actually more excited about is how you might be able to frame your demo, your upcoming demo, your upcoming playtest. I think when you put on the forum, it's like we want to announce our playtest.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at the game, we'll take a look and see if that's an exciting beat. But maybe what I would advocate for is that what would be really interesting and what I would welcome is to get into your head of how you're thinking of crafting that marketing beat, right? Can you give us a pitch, even if it's a draft form, of how you would want to present it, what that content would look like, how to make it more exciting?
Yeah.
I think those are the ways that when it comes to exclusive content and framing, something that I would like to see a little bit more from Southeast Asian developers. But that's a very RF, like I just dream big and I just want to I want to see how we can make something big out of something a little bit more normal, right?
This is something I told a developer that I'm currently working with, and I totally understand why this happens, and it's because you kind of base your marketing beats around your key development milestones. And what I'm trying to suggest is you don't have to always do that, because if you do, then you're always going to end up with, okay, demo, DLC, release, that's kind of it, right? But what I'm trying to say is think more creatively. We had when we were working with Sean from Battle Brew Productions for one of the Gamescom Asia showcases, I was like, Sean, I know your game is basically done, but what can you show me? And he was like, well, we have a new weapon and it's like a durian. What do you think? And I'm like, that's great. We'll do a weapon reveal because it's cool and it's resonant with Southeast Asia. It's really small, but just show us something that's unreleased, something that no one else has seen. And even if it's not the big thing, even if it's not a brand new demo, just just pitch it to us, and we just want to consider all sorts of types of content, mainly exclusive.
So just to follow up, what would you think feature or do well, or would you say like a new character skin also work as well? What following up?
I think that's totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah. All
I think
right.
that's totally fine. Yep.
All right. Second question is, so indie developers mostly do not have huge resources, as you well know. My main key takeaway is that showcase equals to having a good trailer or a different trailer. Would you agree to that, or would you suggest that there are better ways to show that there are new concepts other than just having a new trailer per se?
Yeah, maybe some of the ways that, because this is something that we totally understand, because we've been working with independent developers for upwards of 5 years, right, at this point. One of the ways that we are selfishly asking for is new content. Give me the new content. Don't put it at other showcases. Don't even put it in your social media.
No, that's
Just keep,
fine, yeah.
keep it for our show, right?
Yeah.
But I think the reality of the situation is that from a resource perspective, it's challenging. So we hear you. If I were to maybe answer the question, is that all these types of announcements, whether it be a skin, whether it be a small update, a small feature, whether it be a big feature, we just want to hear and work with you to figure out if that beat makes sense to the audience, right? For the Southeast Asia Games Showcase, we're very cultural forward. So other than showcasing just great games in general, as Sam mentioned, if there's a cultural beat that makes sense, that the let's say 6-1 Indie, right? If they were to feature your game, they wouldn't focus on that. We might want to focus on that instead. From a resource perspective, though, I think the challenge for us, and maybe going through the past 2 years of working with developers, is let's build a relationship to figure out where you guys are at. I think the frustration that I get on our side as curators as well is you meet a developer for the first time, it's like 3 months before your showcase, and they're like, I don't know if I can make the trailer, and this is the first time we're seeing the game as well, and we really want it for the show, but they're resource strapped. I want to start building this maybe like evergreen relationship with some developers where we know kind of what your production timelines are. We get to know what the game is so that we can check in throughout the year to try to craft it earlier so that the burden is less so on you guys trying to figure out that one marketing beat in this like super small time frame. I don't know if you have any other thoughts, Sam.
I think the wider point that we were trying to make with this is not just to self-promote our showcase, but to let everyone know that showcases are a thing. They're not going away, and they are very important. So having a rough schedule of the key ones you want to hit, not just us, but if you're a cozy game, you want to know when Wholesome Direct is and when Wholesome Snack is, and you want to fit that into your marketing pipeline of, well, we have this thing, it'll be done soon, and then we can release it on Wholesome Snack, for example. And just to go back to the Let's Build a Dungeon example, where they had a really cute, cozy trailer for Wholesome, and for ours it was, I think, like half developer like intro. So they showed footage of their team in Singapore and their team in the Philippines, and then they gave us a really unhinged and funny trailer. But the point was like they really thought, the kind of people who are tuning into the Southeast Asia Game Showcase, what do they want to see? They want to see culture. They want to see people like us. They want to see the representation from the region. So of course we get the developer part. And then for the Wholesome audience, it's like they want to see cozy games. So even though Let's Build a Dungeon is not just a cozy game, they did create a trailer that was oriented for that demographic. So again, thinking really strategically about who the audience is for each showcase, and then what angle or what angle or perspective you want to be showing to them as well is really important. Thank you for the question.
Hi. So one of the things about last year was that there are now a lot of expos. So basically, how do you deal with planning a time for your showcase when there are like so many showcases happening? Especially because our Lord and Savior Jeff Keighley also like partnered with so many of them at the same time.
So to give you a bit of a behind-the-scenes look at how all the sauce is made, or whatever people say, we are in very close communications with the other showcases, and of course with Jeff Keighley's team to do the programming. As a collective of indie showcases, we set forward our preferred time and date, and then we put that forward to Jeff Keighley's team, and we cross our fingers, hope and pray, go to temple and pray that we don't clash with PlayStation or Xbox or anything like that. But of course, if we do, then we just move, because we understand that the giants go forward, and we're not going to try and compete with them. We just want to make sure the audience has time in the day to see our showcase. So we will move if that is the case.
Awesome, thanks.
Go. Hi, Arief. Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for the talk. It was really interesting. I noticed, Arief, you mentioned that you get 300 plus submissions, especially this year. Outside of exclusivity, I'd be interested to know what criteria you look at for the games themselves, in terms of, I guess, assessment. Are you looking for mechanics or visual style? If you could speak a little to that, that'd be really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start because the way that we do our curation and the things that we look at is we just want to build a good show, right? And it's super funny because, I was chatting with, let's say, the Duo Quest developers over there, and they're at a Steam event that I think is like it's either a board game or a card-specific Steam event for games of that vertical, of that genre. We're definitely not that. One of the ways that I maybe take a look at is also, do we have a diverse slate of games that are coming from Southeast Asia that show that we're not just oriented to one way? So I think one of the trends that I saw last year is an increase in, let's say, idle desktop games, right? So we took that as a category. We saw some really good games. I think we had a conversation, which was, how many of these do you think we should put into our show? Because we also don't want to be cornered into thinking Southeast Asia only builds those types of games, right? So to answer your question, I think the way that we think about it is more so types of games and genres as a whole. But as a producer on my side, specifically for the pacing of the showcase, I want to make sure that there is something for everybody. So the challenge on my side is that I really hate horror games. Like, I just do not play it. I'm gonna field everything over to Sam and get Sam to kind of like sift and curate and maybe take a second look. So for me, it's also pacing. I think like we take a look at visual styles. Does that fit in the beginning of the game? Even like soundtrack, will that fit in the middle part of the production process? So all that to say is that we take genres. I also take what fits right for the moment of the actual showcase viewing time itself.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for what you guys do and for the presentation. On the content side of things, you mentioned that you think of a showcase as like a production. So the trailer or whatever you present with the game has to jive with basically the whatever emotion you want to bring out at a certain beat of the showcase, right? So what makes a good trailer? I know you guys touched upon a little bit, but when you guys do the curation process, what elements make you go like, oh, this is so good, I'm interested in it? That's my first question. I have a second one.
That's such a good question.
Yeah, you're the editor.
I think on my side, like I said, the hidden things that if I can give a more nuanced answer to that, is like, I brought up music in the past. I know, there are rhythm games, there are music-oriented games, but I think the challenge for developers that I see is that, let's say I see something visually striking and it's amazing, but you can tell the trailer is underdeveloped on maybe the music side of things, let's say, right? Or even the sound effects side of things. So all that to say is, like, I think we can kind of all tell when a good trailer is a good trailer. Maybe one of the things that I would ask developers is, are there people that could help out specifically to do your trailer? Do you have the resources to do that? Because I think I know, I've spoken to some developers, let's say like one-person development teams, they're like, I am not the video trailer person. Whatever I'm gonna give you is gonna be really bad. I think I was working with a developer last year who said that they were outsourcing it specifically for our project as well. But to be honest with you, I mean, like, it also depends what game is being submitted. Because sometimes the challenge for us is that there are games that we've seen for so long that we think we're a little bit exhausted with that visual aesthetic or what the game is trying to promote, but their upcoming DLC might show something different. I think we try to prefer to go with something different. But I also want to caveat this by saying the onus is really on the developers of what they show us. We'll obviously work together with folks. I think there's some people in the room here that we had a little bit of back and forth in terms of, hey, if you guys do this at the end of the trailer, I think one of the examples that I brought up was, you have a DLC coming up. If you can put a component that mentions all your DLCs in the past as well as like an end boilerplate for that trailer, I think it'll go a long way to have that impact that the game is like extremely well received from the community. So I think that's a long way, a roundabout way to answer some of the small, minute details that I look for in a trailer, other than just being a good trailer as a whole.
Okay, I'm just making sure that maybe Sam had like additional notes because I have a second question. So when it comes to these showcases, which is great that you guys are doing, and it's so exciting to see that wish lists are going up. So how are you preparing the studios or these solo devs, if they are solo, to prepare for like delivery and also before the showcase to prepare like their social media even. And if they're going to be put up in the Steam page, because it's so exciting, you have your own category, what kind of information do they need to provide? So do they have a checklist on that one? And also just the post like showcase support as well, just to handle these influx of like interest.
No, that's a really great question, and I'm really sad Nissy is not here because she is a machine at this sort of thing. So for last year, she made developer checklists, developer toolkits, and it was all these things that you need to prepare. But also we made customized graphics for every game that was going to be in the showcase, and we were like, do not post it now because this is a secret. But once it's out, you can use this graphic and announce that you were at the showcase. This is like suggested copy, it fits within the character limit, and kind of just makes it easy for them to just fill in their studio name. So we do provide that. And for the rest of the showcase as well, we really try to make things seamless for all of our partners. So for content creators too, when we put out a forum, we got content creators in, we also gave them content creator official banners, making them feel like they're part of the show, making them feel they're included, and hopefully they get some attention as well, maybe some more followers. Same with the developers. So we do try to provide that as much as we can. I think post showcase, we did have a couple of media partners reach out saying that was great. We really want to talk to the folks at Spring Loaded. Can you facilitate that? So we did do that too, and I think this year we want to try and do more and more of that because we were getting quite a lot of leads. I mean, it was our first time last year, so we were also very surprised at what an overwhelming response it was. So I think this year we'll be more prepared to see post showcase how else can we like really drive the message forward across all in every regard.
Thank you. That's all my questions, and good luck for the second year.
Thank you.
Hey, Sam and Arief, thank you for the talk. This question is specifically for Arief. As a person who edits all the trailers into the showcase, how do you feel specifically about publisher and developer logos at the start of the trailer? Is that like a thing that you feel tends to break the flow, or what are your thoughts on that?
It's a good one. So I'm just going to be very transparent. The number of Southeast Asian games that are signed by, let's say, to generalize it, notable global publishers is still very few and far between. If you ask me transparently, I think at the end of the day, when we're even talking about Southeast Asian games, sometimes we might bring up the publisher as an additional green, like it's a green light, a positive signal, a positive indicator, right? So when it comes to the trailer aspect, I think the ones that are bold enough to even put their logo in the first place kind of fit that category. I think I haven't seen a publisher logo or a developer logo come up that's like, who are these guys, So we haven't seen too many of those, but just to be very transparent, one of the goals that we do is even in the sponsors that we choose to work with, we're very blessed to have a lot of inbound interest given the focus on Southeast Asia. I think the people that we want to work with, and you guys know this, is like we're very specific to what are the names that could also help elevate and amplify on their end. That's a challenge that we had this year with bringing on some of our partners, which was other than the game that they would want to feature or the marketing beat that they would want to have, how can they also amplify not just our showcase, but all the other developers that are not in their portfolio? That's just a little bit of an add-on, Brian, but if there's anything else you want me to dig into, like slap your logo on whatever, you know what I mean? We'll take a look.
So, you see many games from Southeast Asian game developers, there's a variety of them, but is there anything that they're lacking that,
Wow, that's a great...
Oh.
What are Southeast Asian developers lacking right now?
I have one.
Yeah.
This is from Malaysia Direct. This is not even from last year. I think Southeast Asian developers lack a good webcam. Like, please stop. If you're doing any kind of dev piece to camera, like any kind of like, where you're showing your face, please stop using the built-in camera on your laptop. It will never look good. Please buy. I don't think it costs that much. Like it's like 100 ringgit or something. Just an external. Use your iPhone. Use your whatever phone. It really, really brings down the quality of what you're trying to get across when people can't see your face and you look like a 2000s, MSN video call.
Sam, only the oldies get that reference. You know what I mean? My perspective is maybe, I don't know if it's representative of the Southeast Asian Games Showcase, but as a person that's been covering the games over the past 5 years, I think mine is on content. I was having this rant with a couple people, Sam included, some of the poor people that I've just like spoken to over the past like 24, 48 hours, is that I'm actually curious how many developers are creating games that they actually want to make, right? So if we take a look, let's take a look at, and these are numbers that I'm just pulling out from what I've taken a look at, right? I've seen a lot of similar genres or similar mechanics in games. Maybe I'll just say it, Sam. I had to like rant last week that I'm just regurgitating multiple times.
Well,
I've seen the roguelite 3-choice like pop-up mechanic in so many games and so many applications. Not to say that that's not right for your game, but I think it just made me wonder, are Southeast Asian developers really challenging themselves to create the game that they want to make, or are they putting things in their game that they think will be successful and they think people want? So I think my commentary right now, which was true to probably David's from Latin American Game Showcase, is probably true with a lot of the publishers in the room that are here, is, are you telling your story? Are you unique? Is your voice unique in this game? And I think that's just the challenge for the region now, given that there's a lot of resources, a lot of money that's coming in, and a lot of platforms like us that are willing to showcase. Like, are you true to yourself? Are you making a great game that only you can make? I think that's the next challenge.
Any more questions? Because I got one follow-up for that. So you just mentioned like you saw a lot of roguelites, for example, and maybe variety, I would say. Is that what you're trying to get at? Am I correct?
Sorry?
So what you're saying is like maybe more variety. So
Sure.
what would you like to personally see Southeast Asian game developers like produce in the future?
Okay, this is awesome because this is completely like you're just going to an RF rabbit hole right now. I really miss. I just saw one earlier right before this panel, but even like platformers from back in the day, right? We were just looking at a student game that kind of reminded me of like Banjo-Kazooie. So I really missed that, and I'm curious how we can build more platformers. I think you got Tico's Tales in the back over there as well. It's very similar in that genre. So I think my challenge is, what are games that used to exist that don't currently, or it's been a long time since we've seen games of that genre. Transparently, I'll just share with everybody, I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. So if you've got any Kingdom Hearts references in your games or anything that speaks to Kingdom Hearts and whatever the ilk of that property is, like, I'll be super excited. But I don't see too many of those.
If we're just gonna shout out games that I really like, I love visual novels. I love dating sims. I really like the game Office Crush. It's over there if people want to check it out. I think it's got a really cool Y2K aesthetic, and that is becoming more and more of commonplace. I'm seeing a lot of games take on that style, but I still think there's still room for that, and I'm not seeing that as much here in Southeast Asia.